see the path to the championship. I can see it.
Coca-Cola 600 belongs to Ryan Blaney.
Blaney's learned how to win over the last couple of months.
Blaney! Harmon! They spin behind him! It's going to be Blaney!
We're going to win this thing.
Ryan Blaney is going to win his way into the championship for...
You have to run a perfect race to get it.
Ryan Blaney is a NASCAR Cup Series champion!
What an unbelievable year. What an unbelievable playoffs for us.
This is the Team Blaney Podcast.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 146 of the Team Blaney Podcast. My name is Adam Rogers, and alongside me is co-host Steve Mez. This podcast is brought to you by fans for fans. Steve and I have been following the drivers of the Blaney racing family for 2 decades, and Team Blaney itself launched on social media back in 2014. Now, each weekly episode of the show offers an in-depth analysis of Ryan Blaney's latest NASCAR Cup Series race, plus news, notes, and special guest interviews all throughout the year. This week, we break down Team 12's run in the Toyota Safe Mart 350 at Sonoma Raceway. Steve, welcome back to another episode of the Team Blaney Podcast. This time, we're recapping a race on a road course at Sonoma, freshly paved track. Blaney and the 12 team looking for redemption. And all in all, a pretty good weekend and honestly, a pretty good race.
Yeah, my Sonoma. Yeah, this was weird because you had this whole thing where they repaved the track and then had issues with the repave because they had to fix parts of it. But a couple different guys went up there and tested, and as we find out during the day, it worked out for them. Like guys like Truex who tested, they showed really well on the track. And the speeds were incredible to say the least. Practice and qualifying speeds were track records all over the place. I don't know how many. At one point, they said there were like 8 or 10 guys that were underneath the track record. And that's just incredible speed. And then during the race, because tire wear was such a minimum, they were able to run basically qualifying laps all race long, not really worried about saving your stuff or going 80-85%. And this caused the racing to be a little more iffy. Although the last stage, it didn't work out that way. The last stage, it was actually looking like a normal race. You put out a tweet at one point saying, remember how they got rid of brought back the stage breaks because there were no cautions? And wow, I don't know what those guys were trying to prove a point or whatnot, but
really, some were different. I mean, one's an engine failure. I mean, one that Ty Gibbs, and we'll talk about some of this, clips that new wall they put down in turn 11. We'll talk about that too. That kind of changed some of the dynamics. So, but yeah, I think 8 or 9 cautions in the first couple stages there. Nobody expected that for sure, but part of it was entertaining. Part of it was a little bit monotonous, but eventually they kind of hit their groove. But I thought it was really cool. Like you said, they got the opportunity to be aggressive. They had the opportunity to make mistakes again. There's a few parts of this track where they have kind of paved off some runoff area where there used to be sand traps. That is kind of a little unfortunate because it even gives guys even more opportunities to just miss corners and not really have any problems by doing that. But there's plenty of other parts through the S's and stuff where you can get off track. I mean, there's a point in this race where Austin Cindric goes way off track sideways and almost rolls the car. So, I mean, it was just much more of a classic, like early 2000s NASCAR road course race. It kind of just felt a little bit more like that. And I think that's why I really enjoyed this one. So I don't know how long this will last, how long it will take for the new asphalt out there to wear down and it kind of gets back to where it was before and things get strung out a little bit more. But it was definitely something that I don't think we were all expecting. Did you get a chance to catch the NASCAR Xfinity Series race at all this weekend?
The Van Gisbergen show?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, he definitely showed up to play, and he was just that much better because even when he went on an alternate strategy at one point, and everybody was like, what are they doing with him? And it was like, it don't matter. He's gonna pass everybody. He can pass and get right back to the front, and and then him and the 21 car had a little I don't know what to call that, you know?
It's a little payback session from what happened to him
Yeah.
at Coda. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's, I mean, the 21 dishes it out. Hopefully, he'll be able to take it. But there's some fun photographs from SVG's drifting burnout around the track, right behind the 21 car. But he's definitely, Shane for sure has embraced this idea of, you know, NASCAR and beating and banging a little bit, because I think the misconception really is in V8 supercars, they think that, you know, people haven't watched any of those races and think that they could do the same thing over there, and they can't. There's some pretty strict penalties for making contact with other cars. So I think this is more Shane experiencing the NASCAR world and saying, you know what, if people are going to do it to me, I'm going to do it to them. And he didn't blatantly crash the 21 or anything. He just totally moved him out of the groove and set sail after that. So
I saw in-car camera on that from inside of Shane's car, and the 21s tried to squeeze him off the track. All he really did was defend with his right side on the right edge of the track, and he defended that part and knocked he knocked the 21 out of the way to do it, but it looked to me like the 21 was trying to pinch him to make him, you know, follow him instead of competing with him, and they were almost door to door when that happened. So, yeah, you weren't going to get him to give, and Shane's already learned quickly that that's what you have to do. So.
Yeah, and he's definitely going to be in contention at Chicago when they go to the Roval in the Xfinity Series, Watkins Glen. I'm not sure, he's not racing every single Cup road course race. I'm sure he's going to be at Chicago though to kind of defend that race win. What I liked after the race though, that he said, you know, it's great, you know, winning these races. I really want to learn how to win on an oval. So we'll see what that future is. But I thought the Xfinity race, again, it was kind of a classic NASCAR road course race, something we've been really looking forward to see again, because the next gen air has been a little bit sketchy on road courses as far as the action has been. But hey, I thought what we saw on Sunday was definitely a step in the right direction, and we'll see what things are like going forward.
Yeah, this weekend was weird because they had practice Friday and qualifying on Saturday, and where it was on TV when. That was another thing.
Oh yeah, that threw us for a loop, right?
Yeah, NASCAR had it all goofed up on because you read it off, and it was just you read it right from the NASCAR website, and then Bob was having to correct it, on Friday morning. Like, no,
yep.
It's going to be
people are asking
live.
him, yeah,
it's going to be on live. It's not going to be on tape. I don't know what this tape delay is. It's going to be on live, and then of course Saturdays was on FS2, the famous FS2, and then and this is it for Fox too for this year. Yay. Sorry. There was one point in the broadcast, I have to say this. There's one point in the broadcast Sunday where they've got a dual box, okay? On the left, they're showing the 34 car. They're talking about the 34 car. They're telling you how great the 34 car is. And on the right, they're showing a pit box. On the banner underneath, it's Michael McDowell and the 34 team. The box on the right is Jonathan Hassler on top of his pit box. How the heck did you do this whole thing? Like, you're going to talk about the 34 car. That's fine. He's having a great race. And you're going to show the 34 on the track. And then you're talking about the crew chief. Wait a minute, that's not him. And I didn't have the sound up, so I don't even know if they corrected that or not. I doubt they did. But I saw it, and I'm like, that ain't the crew chief of the 34. That's Hassler.
People give Fox a lot of flack for their broadcasts, and I can't defend any of that. The only thing I always say all the time, happens in the Discord constantly too, is people need to get used to the fact that in NASCAR racing and NASCAR broadcasts, there are going to be commercials. There's been commercials since I started watching in 2001. I just know it's going to happen. Totally different type of sport. We don't have built-in timeouts and TV timeouts and official timeouts. We don't have stoppages in play constantly. We don't have stoppages for injuries. All we really have are cautions in the stage breaks they added in. But it's like anytime. It could be anytime they go to commercial, people are like, oh, here's another commercial. Like there's going to be commercials. They're going to switch over to NBC, and I can't wait. 2 weeks in, it's going to be like, NBC has too many commercials. This is an F1, unfortunately. Not one one company doesn't buy out the whole race and make it commercial free. So you just gotta get used to it. And honestly, maybe I don't care because the in-car camera thing. They go to commercial, doesn't matter to me. I'm still listening to Timmy talk to Ryan and watching Ryan, lap around the track because so maybe that's it. Maybe I'm just not sensitive to it because I've abandoned watching most of the broadcast.
I usually don't tell you the truth, I have it on. It's up there above on 2 TVs I've got. But you're right, I don't usually catch the broadcast, but I saw that and I'm like, that was just weird. I'm like, why are they talking about McDowell and showing his car, but then showing, and like I said, there's a graphic underneath there about something the 34 car's done lately. And it's like, it's great, except you're not showing everybody from the 34 team.
Also notable that if you're listening to this on Tuesday, tonight is the final NASCAR Race Hub show ever.
Oh, yeah.
I guess it's going to be a 90-minute show. It says they're going to have lots of special guests and drivers and crew chiefs that have been on the past. I don't know if Ryan will be on there or not, but he was on Race Hub a lot over the last 4 or 5 years, so maybe he makes an appearance. But if that's a show that you really enjoyed, you might want to tune in for that one or at least DVR it. I'm sure it'll be available on demand after that. But definitely sad to see the sports final studio show go away. I've heard rumblings that, with this new NASCAR Productions facility, something else might happen. They already do kind of their own preview show with Kim Kuhn and Ryan Flores during the week. If anybody hasn't caught that during the week, you should check that out. It's on NASCAR's YouTube channel. I feel like things like that might get replaced with more NASCAR specific offerings, but sad to see that go because it was, you'd be out at a restaurant, you'd see that on TV. I thought it got in front of a lot of people that maybe don't usually pay attention to NASCAR and might get them interested. So maybe another bad decision by Fox, but what are you going to do? I feel for them. I feel for all the personalities that are part of that show that are might be looking for work now.
Yeah, well, I said this before, Discord, somewhere else. It's like, the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, the NHL, and those are the 4 major regular team sports. They all have their own network. Why doesn't NASCAR have its own network? They're putting together this thing and doing it right. Just put together your own network. You can put programming wise, you could show, you've got all the races now out there. So you could show race after race during the week, during the afternoon. You could have every Thursday is Dale Earnhardt Day, or whatever, and just show those specific races, whatever. But you could put together your own programming that way. You can, people will find it, whether you do it streaming or do it where the cable companies can pick it up. But then that way you don't have to depend anymore on, whether or not Fox is going to have a special show. And post-race, you have your own post-race show, when NBC or whoever turns off the post-race, guess what? We still have our reporters and they're live, from wherever, following around whoever.
That's definitely one thing I'm looking forward to with the transition back to NBC is they were really good last season about having a post-race show. Hopefully that continues. So I'm just realizing we should probably talk about the weekend. That could go back. Let's go. And that does start. You did get to watch practice. That's kind of where we started with. Things were weird with Fox, but you did end up getting to see practice, getting to see qualifying. So how did that go for Team 12?
Friday was one session with all the cars there, and early on, P1 with an individual lap, did a mock qualifying run at the end of the practice, and once again, put it up there. Ran 23 laps. And the overall lap average, which was interesting, was like P2 behind the one car. So the one car had pretty good speed on there overall. And then the 5-lap average was P5. And I think it was Larson actually was one of the top ones there. So, overall speed was huge out of not only Ryan, but the 22 and the 2 were up there, and a lot of the single lap and, average and the averages even. So, come Saturday when they do qualifying, they went out Group A and Group B. Was it 15-minute session, and which is just long enough to make a run early on and then make another one later on if you need to, And sure enough, they go out and they were in the top 5 early on with this lap. It was a pretty good lap. But if you're on that borderline at that point, you really got to go out and make another lap. You should just plan on it, because the 17 or 18 guys that are in your session, most of them are going to come back out and make a lap or try, and sure enough, they do one more at the end of the session, and he put it right back up into the top 5. He climbed, he'd gotten knocked out, climbed right back in, and the 22 also made it in his session too. So, fall qualifying, they're both in there, and they were 1 and 2 most of the session. They both put a lap up for pole qualifying. It was great, and looked like it was going to be 22 and the 12 on the front row, and then the 45 went out there and put a lap time right in between the two of them. So pretty good day though. We're going to start third. We're going to be in the front. Going to get good pit selection. All kind of great stuff comes from this. So we get to Sunday, stages of 25, 55, 110. Fuel run of 38 to 41 laps, according to Bob on Sunday morning. 6 sets of tires. Pit stall 23, which right before you get to the start finish line. He's got like 2 openings in front of him, which is great too, because you can point the car and still turn it. And the 20 is pitting behind him. Kind of great stuff behind the scenes is they're in commercial at the beginning, and Boyer comes on and interviews Ryan during the commercial, which they come back later on and play during the actual broadcast. I mean, usually they do those things kind of live sometimes, but
I thought that was weird.
Yeah. It's like,
and I thought they skipped them.
And they're in commercial. I'm like, wait a minute, they're in commercial. Wait a minute, he's talking to them. They're in commercial. And then not only did they do that, but they did the other interview, or showed the other interview first.
Yep.
And then did Ryan's interview. So they get to the start here, and by turn 5, the top of the hill here, they're finally single file P3 behind the 45, and the 9 is behind him, and the 22 is leading. But then we get a caution, lap 3 for the 11 car. And this was just totally out of the blue. Coming down around turn 11, going up the hill, and just blew up.
Yeah, and you see this in like the Xfinity series and the Truck series. You don't see this much in Cup anymore. Even when guys do have engine problems, like Bell the week before, it's not like a total detonation. But yeah, this thing went up in smoke, and that was unfortunate for the 11 car. But as far as our points position, it was good for the 12 team.
Yeah. What's funny is they love to do the drama on TV, add drama to it. Well, last week a Toyota from that Gibbs blew up, and now this. Well, no, last week it was a valve failure and it didn't blow up. It kept running, and this is totally different. It blew up. So I don't know if they're related, but they really want to draw that comparison right away and hope you keep your eyes peeled, because who knows what Gibbs car is going to blow up next, So Ryan says we took off free here, definitely free. Of course, we're staying out here. For the choose, the 22 takes the left, or takes the left, and the 45 takes the left. So Ryan gets to the front row here for this restart, which but he's not, jumping the restart's kind of tough, and he's next to the 22, so he's not really going to wrestle with Joey that much, I don't think. And restarting here at lap 7, by turn 5, he's behind the 22 and the 45. By lap 8, the 19 is behind him, and at lap 10 he says we need more rear grip, and at lap 11 Tim says that's a really great lap. We're trending in the right way here. Lap 14, the 22 and the 45 are racing hard in front of Ryan, so it looks like he could, and then at lap 15 we got a caution for the 54, and this, like you said, the new barrier on the inside of turn 11, which I think is awesome, because there were so many different shortcuttings and running into the tires and trying to knock guys into the tires, and then they would have to do a track limits thing, if somebody went through there and didn't do this or did that, or
honestly, I was worried that this was going to impede it at being a great passing zone, and honestly, it didn't at all. No, there's tons of passing through there still. You didn't have, like you said, the guys like kind of intentionally scrubbing those tire packs back further and further and further so they can kind of cheat the corner a little bit more. I mean, last race there, we had guys like, stopping and going through there and not really getting caught doing it. I mean, it was really weird. So I thought there'd be a lot more carnage because of it. Now, a couple guys do scrape the wall. There is a point when there is kind of a little bit of a parking lot there at one point, but it wasn't too bad. It turned out pretty good, and they did put some sponsor banners on there. I think my concern right out of the gate when we saw it earlier in the week, we saw the photos. I was like, "Oh man, that looks ugly." It's just concrete kind of sitting there. Those those divider walls like you see on a highway. So it worked out great though. Tons of passing, especially if you watch Ryan's final run to the finish. That's mainly where he got almost every guy was in 11.
Yeah.
So
there's a ton of stuff down 11. Ryan says we need to tighten it up here on entry, and they're staying out. But the 22 pits, and I've got question mark, question mark, question mark. And I did that before the results of this. That's the funny part, is because of all the alternate strategies, I thought that was a really weird one. 45 is taking the lead here, and he takes the right-hand lane. Ryan takes the left-hand lane. And these restarts between Ryan and the 45, TV, I don't know, TV talked about it a little bit, but on the radio, Ryan was very, very animated with Tim to go talk to an official because he was really trying to sucker.
You could see it on the camera, on the in-car cam. You could see it every time. What Ryan would describe was like him brake. He kept saying he's brake checking, and you could see it. Got into the zone, he would just stop and then go, and then
and everybody was piling into them from behind. That's the funny part.
Yep.
Ryan was getting drilled from behind on this, and people don't realize that's part of it. It's you get loose because all of a sudden, guy behind you just hits you, and your rear end isn't underneath, and so. The restart lap 19, and there's a caution for spin in 9 by the 14 to 47, and the 22 ends up in this melee. And this is what I said. We talked about like strategies will put you in the back sometimes. But so early into the race, and being one of the few guys that took this pit stop when he did, there was only a handful of cars that did it, and he ends up taking him basically out of the race for the rest of the day.
Yeah. And honestly, things like this has happened to the 12 before. It's not something they're looking for. You could correct me if I'm wrong. The only thing that I could think he was doing here was going to try to make it, which is what the 12 almost did, was if he pits now, he'd have enough fuel to make it to the end of stage 2 if he just stays out the rest of the way. To where he could stay out and get the points and everything and then pit with everybody else on that other schedule. So that's what I think they're thinking about doing. And Paul Wolf is the kind of crew chief that thinks that far ahead too. So it's kind of odd. A lot of people questioning what they did. I'm like, Paul Wolf's probably one of the best guys. He used to do it with Keselowski all the time and stuff. So unfortunate, but the 12 team's been in those shoes before of doing an alternate strategy, getting put in the back and accidentally getting in someone's mess. A total nightmare for the 22. And because of this, they have a rough day and continue to fall back out of the playoff standings.
Yeah. So once again, staying out here for the choose here, the 45 takes the right, Ryan the left, restart lap 23. And by the top of the hill, P2 behind the 45. I say the top of the hill. When I say that a couple times in here, I mean like by the time they get up to 4 and 5 up there and work their way back down. 45 wins stage 1, Ryan P2. So that part is, if you're not going to flip the first stage, and you might end up flipping the second stage, at least you got big stage points at the end of the first stage. Jonathan says the plan with all the cautions have fallen is the number 4 here. Now, this is something because of all these goofy cautions that don't normally happen. It kind of changes the fuel mileage and changes the strategy. So they stay out. The 45 does also. And I want to point that out because as we go along here, there was a couple cars on this same type of strategy, the 45, the 5, I believe the 17 was one of them also. So you end up seeing each of them are on this strategy, and little things happen, little differences happen here and there that change it for a couple of them, but it really does work out in the long run. So for this restart, the 45 is taking the right-hand side right on the left, and the restart at lap 30 here. The 9 actually clears, and or he clears the 9. I'm sorry. The 9 was the one behind him. He clears the 9. He's up to P2 chasing the 45. And at lap 32, we get a caution for the 33 car being stalled there in the middle on, inside of turn 11 somehow. I don't know where he got in there, but he got in there. Ryan says the 45 is brake checking the restarts, not maintaining speed. And what's interesting about that being said is they were told a couple times before that to maintain speed, but to the pace car. So he's just reiterating.
Yeah.
We were all told this, and this knucklehead is not doing it.
And part of it, Tim's reminding him to stop warming up his tires. He's saying after you get out of turn 11, they want you to hold it straight. And he would do it, and then you'd see the 45 still moving around. I'm like, man. And Tim's like, just warn him. He's like, hey, I just don't want us to get in any trouble here. Yeah. But they keep telling us to stop warming up our tires when we get out of 11. And then you'd see the other guys around him still doing it. And it's like, oh, man, this is a little bit frustrating.
Yeah, Tyler is acting like the guy who's like asking for forgiveness later on, not for permission, so. Johnson says we're staying out here. The 45, of course, takes the right-hand side for this restart. Ryan the left. Restart lap 35. The 5 is pushing Ryan right this, and, he's on the inside, and, but that ends up into P3 at this point. And we get a caution in turn 11. This is the 43 hitting the 4 going onto that inside wall and then collecting, like, I don't know how many cars are here. The 60, the
disaster,
20, the 20, the 19, the 3, the 4. I got the term melee written here because he hit him, he knocked him off sideways. Then the 4 hits the wall, comes back across the track, and just collects guys. Luckily, the one thing that's lucky about that whole area of the track is that it's low speed.
Yeah.
It's, so when they do, collect each other, they're not really knocking everybody out of whack or knocking the fenders off everything or knocking the toe link out of everybody. So
does take out the 24 car who's ahead of us in points. So there's a few guys that have some troubles during the day that make the points position a little bit better than it was last week. And he didn't look like he really got hit too hard, but it broke some of the suspension and toe links and stuff, and that was it.
Yeah, Tim actually does say something about saving fuel at this point once again because all these cautions they're changing how many laps they can go. Ryan and Tim are discussing the restart issues a little bit here too. Jonathan says the cautions are forcing our hand, but he says it's better than being in that mess. So in other words, staying out is better than hitting and then being back there and having something else happen to us. So they stay out. The 45 once again stays out too. He takes the right. Ryan takes the 5 takes the left. Ryan is in the right-hand side behind the 45 for this restart from P3. And they restart lap 40. He cleared the 1, by lap 4 or 5, or by turn 4 or 5. Then we get a caution for the 2, the 10, 34, maybe even the 7 in there. This is where Ryan says we all look like a bunch of buffoons. Can't even make 10 laps. And I don't know if they played that on the air or not, but that was a pretty good line. They do stay out here. And so the 45, takes the right-hand side, and the 5 takes the left. Ryan takes the right behind the 45. The top 7 at this point haven't pitted yet. Okay. So like I said, there were a bunch of guys on this strategy here. The 1 is on the outside of Ryan. The restart lap 43. The 1 clears Ryan. So Ryan is back into 4th at this point. And at lap 46, he's about 2.5 back of first place, the 45, and he's closing on the 1. The 1 may have made that move and got past him, but he's faster than the 1. In lap 40, somewhere around 47 or 48 here, because it's down in turn 11, he outbreaks the 1 and gets to P3. And that was the thing. A fun thing about watching the in-car camera on that was, the right-hand side is the inside lane. They get down underneath that guy who's trying to arc the corner a little bit, get inside of him enough where he can't arc the corner. And then if you can outbreak him coming around, and Ryan did this, like you said, a number of times on the day. By lap 50, we're starting to catch the 5 car, and only 1.1 back of the 5. So, certain points in this race, they were the fastest car on the track, even though they weren't leading. Lap 51, we're pitting this time. So now we're going to pit this time and hopefully have only one more pit stop by the end of the race. They're going on the jack fuel. So don't look at the pit time, people. Okay. This is a situation where
we're messing around this week.
Yeah. You can look at all 4 tires and say, oh, why aren't they out of there faster? But they're waiting to fill that thing up, because if they fill it up now, they might not have to fill it up as much later. And it might be the strategy to beat somebody later in the race. So at this point, the top 4 cars haven't pitted yet, though. 45, the 5, the 1, the 48. At lap 52, a couple of them do pit the next lap. At lap 53, the 45 pits. And at lap 54, the 17 takes the lead. The 5, the 1, the 45 are all racing right in front of Ryan. They are 27th, 28th, 29th, and 30th. So the people on his strategy are all pretty much in a row there. We're going to be racing with each other here. The 17 wins the stage. Ryan's in 30th. And Ryan asks about those strategies, and to know he's racing with the guys he's supposed to be racing with. Johnson says most or all will probably stay out. So if we can gain a couple spots, we might stay out. But if you don't think we're going to gain that many spots, and they try to count them down for him here, he says, just bring it in, and we'll top it off. And they do that. They do come in, top off for fuel. And
now,
they don't really actually gain a spot on pit road.
Yeah, I think he ends up to like 29th or so.
29th,
now, just wanted to clarify, the idea of coming into top off here is to make the final pit stop. They're only going to stop one more time in this race. They want to make it as short as possible, kind of like they did the previous week. But in this case, they're going to have plenty of fuel because they packed it, they came back in, they topped off. So they want to make that last one as short as possible, potentially take 2 tires or no tires, splash and go, and be able to contend for the win. This is also under the assumption that after this restart, he's going to, with the speed he has in this car, even though he's going to be restarting 29th, that he's going to carve his way back through the field. So that's the idea behind the strategy. I just kind of want to set that up, and then we could talk about what happens, what does or doesn't happen. But that's the idea of topping off totally, just to even try to get a jump on the 5 and the 1 and anybody else at the 45 ahead of him on that final pit stop, to where maybe his stop could be even shorter than them, and he'll leapfrog him just like he leapfrogged the 2 the week before.
Yeah. And really, truthfully, that's what Jonathan talks about here. He says, take care of fuel for me. We're about 10 laps to the window. So, before they even get back out there, he tells them we're only 10 laps away from the window. And depending on how many positions they gain at that point, they might make the move, because they come in and won't lose them as much track position. The 17 is the leader there. Ryan goes to the left side to be on the outside of turn 11 in case they get a checkup on that inside lane there. Restart lap 60. By lap 61, he's having problems with the 71. The 71 literally moves Ryan kind of off the track here. Ryan loses a couple spots, goes back to 33rd here, but then the fun begins. Lap 62, he passed the 42. At lap 63, I think they passed the 60 and the 21. At lap 64, we passed the 4. So back up to 29. It just took a couple laps. It may have been time wasted in some regards, but at lap 64, also passing the 15 at 28 there. At lap 66, Ryan asks what the plan is here. Now, see, at this point, they might have wanted to pit and get this fuel, but now they're thinking of going the other direction than some of the other cars out there, staying out longer, letting the gaps get a little wider so that when you pit, you don't lose as many positions. And then maybe take 4 tires too, and have fresh tires.
The other thing happening too that I think impacts the strategy is the fact that he did have that run in with the 71, gets off track, loses those positions. Meanwhile, the 5 and the 1 are extremely aggressively moving their way to the front, pretty much at all costs, and they've gapped the 12 car pretty big. I think the 5 already at one point gets up into the top 15, top 12 rather quickly, and Ryan's still stuck back in the 20s. So that's for their initial strategy to work out. They really needed to be able to carve up through the field. He just wasn't able to do that just because of circumstance and the way the cars were racing in front of them. It didn't happen. So they just have to work, they have to move on their feet here, come up with something new. And like you said, that's what he comes in and says, I think we're going to go longer.
Longer, yeah. I mean, he gives them two scenarios: a splash now or clean air, and that's what he means by clean air is we go longer, it'll spread out, but you can get the guys and you can pass them. And lap 67, he passes 3, and 71 gets 26. Lap 68, a couple of them start pitting now. So some of these guys are in the pit window, and they're going to go ahead and pit. 16 takes the lead actually. By lap 70, Ryan's up to 10th. By lap 71, he's up to 5th with this cycle going on here. And Jonathan, and Tim, a couple different times talk about anything that looks like it might be a caution, just call them a pit road. We can get here before it closes. Perfect, And then they would jump, because other guys would have to pit. They'd pit during the caution. They would jump past those guys. But at lap 73, he's up to P4. And lap 75, Ryan asks, are we doing just gas or are we going to take tires? He's at P3 at this point, or P4 at this point, behind 7 car actually. And Jonathan says, I can do 2 or 4. It'll be about 4 to 5 spots if we do 4. So he basically telling him, look, we can take 4 and you might just have to get him back but you'll have fresh tires to do it. So at lap 82, the 5 pits, and he's up to P3 with the 9 leading at this point. Lap 83, they're pitting. 4 tires stop, and they come out about 19th, which if you compare it to where they were early on when the cycle started, they've actually gained a couple spots on the cycle. I think it was like 24th or 23rd when the cycle actually started. So pretty good there. And at lap 85 passes the car or 2, gets to 17th. At lap 86 passes the 48 to get to 16th. In that lap, passing the 43 also to get to 15th. Lap 87 passes 7, get to 14th. At lap 89 passes the 99, get to 13th. Lap 97, he asks how many laps are left. And, they're P13 with 13 to go. All the positions are right in front of them. Lap 99 passes the 6, gets to 12. And I'm watching the ticker too. And I know that some of these cars use a second and a half faster than. So if you get to, And
I wanted to talk about that. So the first 2 stages of this race, tires meant nothing. And mostly because there was caution after caution after caution, all the heat cycles, everybody's equalized. It wasn't until this final stage that goes green that we actually see with Ryan's car, especially with the charge the 5 makes eventually all the way to the lead. The tires mattered over that final stage. So you could see that those differences. So
the guys who got them later had them fresher. Yeah, they did more with it. So we get lap 100, passing the 20 car, get to 11th, 101. The 19 took the lead here. The 5 was in second. And then the 5 took the lead from the 19. Lap 102, we passed the 38 and get to 10th. So we're looking at a top 10 now all of a sudden.
I was happy. I was like, if this is all the further we get, this is a good day.
All those strategies and the weirdness. And the thing is the strategies were in their favor until they weren't, and
yep.
And that's the way
about
it
rebounding.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
And they end up rebounding anyway. So at lap 106, he knocks the 45 out of the way. Which is nice.
Which I think was a little bit of payback. I think he wasn't going to waste his time with them with all the games he played earlier. It's just whether the 45 even knew whether he was sending a message or not. But in my eyes, if he was, the 45 might not even understand it. But hey, he didn't waste time on him.
So he's up to P9. And then at lap 110.
Thought P9 was it too.
Yeah, I thought P9 was great and that was fabulous. And at that point, the gap to the next car wasn't achievable. And
I think it was 7 or 8 seconds to the 16. I think maybe it was the gap.
Yeah. And now all of a sudden, things happen. The 8 car gets spun out in up in turn 4th there by he got Chastained, and so he passes him, gets to 8th, and then the 19 runs out of gas. Oh, the poor 19. I think we know the feeling. Join the club. We've got jackets made. He runs out of gas down in 11, and Ryan passes him and gets to 7. The 5 ends up winning, but Racing Analytics. What is that on Twitter?
Yeah.
Get the name of it now. It's Racing Analytics, right? It's just,
Yes.
His Twitter. He likes to put out shows you where they would have all ran, if they would have ran caution free, and the 5 wins the race either way. But Ryan would have been second, and only about a turn away. He would have been somewhere at the top of turn 11. So, all things being equal, and you don't have to race around somebody, but you just ran the lap times, which is what that little analysis does.
Yeah.
He was the second fastest car on the day. And 7th was, just based on the strategies and not working out, because you ran a certain strategy a certain way, and then all of a sudden you don't have any more cautions. If there was another caution somewhere in the third stage at a certain point, it would have jumbled in his favor. You know what I mean? Something would have been probably in his favor at that point. It just didn't happen. But overall, it was a great day. Pretty excited about top 10, huge stage points at the beginning of stage 2 or stage 1, and a road course where, hasn't been the best of his road courses, but man, did the Penske boys show up with speed this weekend.
It was really great to see. I brought it, I think, in our social media posts after the race, just brought up the fact, because I just like looking back at stats. 12 starts in the next gen car on road courses for Ryan Blaney. Only 4 top 10s in those 12 starts, including this top 10. Overall, he's usually he averages, it used to be better in the old car. He was a lot better on road courses in the old car. He now averages around 14th to 15th on road courses in the next gen car. So he halved that in this race. Yeah, he got gifted a couple spots at the end, but much like last week, some will say that's racing. That's what happened. So thanks, Ross, and thanks to the 19 team for miscalculating as well and biting, and unfortunately for that, bad luck biting them too. So I thought it was great. I mean, especially for a race where they set out on a strategy that didn't end up working out all the way. But one thing we see, this is like a classic 12-team race where things might not work out for them, but they are either already had the speed or they find the speed and they find a way to salvage a good finish. And that's what they did. There was a point there where Ryan so much as said, like, everybody be quiet, I just want to race. And it actually kind of fired Tim up. I thought he kind of liked it. He liked the passion. And that was basically that last run. And Ryan went out there and just started passing as many guys as he could. So it was cool to see. I'm sure Ryan was maybe a little frustrated by not being able to contend for the win, but I'd have to imagine it was a little bit fun. That last stage was fun to race. So it was fun to watch. And it was totally great after 3 straight, outside of the All-Star race was good, top 5, but that doesn't count for points. So, but pretty 3 straight disastrous finishes that saw them toppling down the standings here. We have a really great finish, really great points. Fortunately, we don't move any positions in the point standings, but he does gain a couple of points here to the leader, who is now Kyle Larson. Thankfully, he got his waiver and he can lead the points again. Denny Hamlin, with that engine detonating, drops from 1st down to 3rd. But Ryan Blaney's 12th in the overall standings now, 117 points back to the leader. Last week, he was in 12th, 129 points back from the leader. So he gains a little bit going forward, and he also gains it on the back end as well. Last week, he was plus 47 to the cut line, the playoff cut line. This week now he's plus 74 because Kyle Busch, several other guys had issues here, and that built that gap back up again. I was pretty nervous on this show last week when we were talking about being in the 40s to the cut line. I'm feeling a little bit better about it. We're in the 70s. And I'm not a Kyle Larson fan, but I can tell you what, when the 19 and the 17 were battling for a win there, I became a huge Kyle Larson fan because we needed a repeat winner. If the 17 or the 19 wins, it takes away another playoff spot, and that would put us in a pretty precarious situation.
Yeah, there's only one more new winner we're allowed to have this year. That's it. That's the 12.
So that's where things stand after Sonoma, up and down all weekend long. Great speed in practice, great speed in qualifying, great speed in the race. And even when things didn't go their way, they found a way to find themselves in the top 10. And I'll call that good. It's good this episode to have something positive to talk about after the last three that we did. I think as Jonathan said and Ryan said at the end of this one, they're moving in the right direction. And that's where we need to go.
Just like my fantasy team's moving.
I was just going to say, unfortunately, my fantasy team not moving in the right direction. And I made a blunder in this race. I don't know that it necessarily, I could have made a difference here. I don't know if it could have got me in the top 10 here, but
just like the 11 car your team.
Just like the 11. So these are this is who I ended up with as my starters. Joey Logano got me 18 points. Chase Elliott got me 40. Blaney got me 39. William Byron got me 7. Daniel Suarez got me 26. And I had Michael McDowell in the garage at 40. So I made this move. I initially had Logano in my garage. And McDowell and Logano both got involved in incidents on track. Mm-hmm. After McDowell got involved in his incident, I was like, I don't know if he's going to be able to make it back from the back of the field. Logano had actually rebounded a little bit up into, I think, toward the top 15 at the time. And I was like, I'm going to swap these in. I think Logano is a safer bet because I thought McDowell would be really aggressive trying to make his way back through with the damage that he had. And unfortunately for me, he ended up having a great finish. So I left plenty of points in my garage. I had in the featured matchups, I had Ty Gibbs over Kyle Busch. That was wrong. I had Chastain over Cindric. That was right. I had Elliott over Reddick. That was right. I had Suarez over McDowell, and that was wrong. So I got 2 out of the 4. I ended up with 150 points earned, but 69th overall on the weekend. So leaving McDowell in the garage, even if I would have thought about it, I don't know if it had been too late to swap him and Byron. I'd already made my move, and I just put fantasy on the back burner after that. So unfortunately for me, left tons of points in the garage.
Yeah, you'd have to pull mine up. I've got the multimedia going on here, so I'm not even sure. I know that I made a garage move at one point. I think the 24 ended up being the car I ended up putting in the garage, and I only had one of the matchups right. I know that.
Yeah, so you ended up 21st overall on the weekend, so not too shabby, 194 points earned. So I only had 150. You had 194. So not too shabby of a weekend for Mez 12 there. Let's take a look at what everybody else had this weekend at Sonoma Raceway. And it starts with a tie for the 9th position. Blaney or Bust and Bears Motor Club, 204 points. In 8th, we have JQS98, 209, and three-way tie for 5th. Montana 12 fan, Abby NNK, and the Nutty Gamer, 211 points earned in the 5th position. 4th is Racer SF, 212, and 3rd is Christian Dana, 219. And 2nd is Robachi, 17. I don't know if I'm saying that right. 222 points earned, but welcome to the top 10 this week. And in the 1st position overall, Blaney Fangirl, another new one, 232 points earned, wins the weekend. Blaney Fangirl wins the weekend at Sonoma Raceway. Now let's take a look at the overall standings in the Team Blaney NASCAR Fantasy Live League. I've dropped down a little bit out of the 20s. I'm in the 31st position now overall, 2,919 points. You're doing okay. 24th, Mez 12, 2,998 points in the 24th position again. Let's take a look at the top 10 in the overall standings, Team Blaney NASCAR Fantasy Live League. 10th, Factory of Sadness 6. Slipped down the standings here a little bit, 3,096. In 9th is Racer SF, 3,100. In 8th is Penske Fan 24, 3,109. In 7th is Dr. Race Chaser, 3,112. 6th is Moose Hunter 1960, 3,115. And 5th is Blaney or Bust, 3,118. 4th is Alyssa C, 3,149. 3rd is Blaney 10, 3,155. 2nd, Frank Fan 12, 3,192. And still leading the way and pulling away a little bit here in the first position of the league, Go Larson, 3,233 points overall. And that brings us to a new track for the NASCAR Cup Series as they head to Iowa Speedway this weekend for the first time. And things kick off on Friday, June 14th, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. You'll have NASCAR Cup Series practice at Iowa Speedway on USA. So again, we talked about it earlier. Fox is in the rear view, NBC the rest of the way, and NBC family of networks, which is for the most part will be NBC or USA. So in this case, practice 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Friday on USA. Saturday, June 15th, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, the NASCAR Cup Series qualifying. So again, they have a 50-minute practice, I believe, on Friday separate because this is a new track. So that just like last week, this pushes qualifying to Saturday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, qualifying at Iowa, also on the USA Network. And then following qualifying, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we have the NASCAR Xfinity Series, Hy-Vee Perks 250 at Iowa, also on USA. And then Sunday, June 16th, Father's Day, I believe, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, the NASCAR Cup Series, Iowa Corn 350, powered by ethanol at Iowa Speedway on USA as well. So shifts over to the NBC family of networks, but this race is actually going to be on USA from practice through qualifying through the Xfinity race all the way to Sunday, all on the USA Network. Now, worth noting, again, this is the first time the NASCAR Cup Series is headed to Iowa. So Ryan does not have any Cup Series statistics there. Nobody does. But fortunately for us, he has some really great experience in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, the NASCAR Truck Series. This is one of those tracks. He joins it with, I believe, Pocono, Charlotte, Bristol. You could maybe consider Texas, maybe one or two other ones where Ryan has victories in the lower two series or 2 out of the 3 series. So Ryan's going for the trifecta here because he has a victory at Iowa in the NASCAR Xfinity Series in 2015 and his first NASCAR victory 2012 in the Truck Series. He has a victory at Iowa as well. So to complete the trifecta this weekend, he has to win on the Cup Series rankings here. Now, mentioned his experience here. 9 starts across trucks and Xfinity, 8 top 10s. So 8 out of 9 times he's finished in the top 10 when he's run a NASCAR sanctioned race at Iowa. His only blemish on that record was a 26th place finish in 2013 in the spring race, or at least the first race there in the Truck Series. His races in the Xfinity Series, which again, if have some time and look up Ryan's statistics in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, it's phenomenal. Tons of top 10s, overwhelmingly top 10, and his win percentage is actually pretty incredible as well. His finishes at Iowa in the Xfinity Series dating back to 2012, 10th, 9th, 2nd, 5th, and 1st. Last time Ryan Blaney was on track at Iowa Speedway, he went to victory lane in the NASCAR Xfinity Series in 2015. Finishes in the Truck Series, first time ever at Iowa. So his first time ever at Iowa, his last time ever at Iowa were both victories. First time at Iowa in the Truck Series in 2012, started second, finished first. Then he had that 26th place finish, the first race in 2013. Then he finished 10th, and then he finished second. So last time there in the Truck Series was 2014, finished second. A lot of longtime Blaney fans that have been with Ryan since the beginning of his NASCAR career through now are really pumped up about this weekend, Steve. I know the track's been kind of haphazardly repaved. They're claiming they didn't have enough time to finish it all because they didn't even know they were going to be on the schedule until right before winter, and then they tried to rush it, and I don't know. But the pictures don't look too great. So I don't know what to expect as far as the half repave, the Frankenstein repave that they've done there. But with the speed that the Penske cars have had on some of these shorter tracks, the speed they've had on like these road courses, the speed they had at Gateway, going to this track at Iowa, I don't want to get disappointed or anything, but my bar is like super high for this weekend. I'm pumped.
And I can't wait to see. This is a little bit of a home track as far as family goes too. You got family in the area from the area. This weekend overall, they've got a big event Saturday night with all the Blaney boys over at Knoxville. So I mean, it's gonna be a fun weekend to be a Blaney and to be in Iowa. And the speed that Penske has shown on this type of track lately too is there. So can't wait to see what the Friday and Saturday look like before we get to Sunday.
Now, we know Ryan's stats here, and I guess for fantasy purposes, we can really only maybe base it on what we've seen speed-wise from these guys at maybe similar type tracks. I'm going to have Joey Logano in my sights. Now, the thing with Logano, and you're going to hear this on pretty much every show this week, is Logano wins when they go to new places, when they repave tracks, when they go to a brand new track. For some reason, that 22 team can put things together. 22 is going to be on my radar, especially on Friday, to see what kind of speed they have. The 2-car, with the race he put together at Gateway. I mean, of course, Ryan, had the lead, was in command, but it wasn't a fluke that the 2 won that race when he capitalized on the misfortune of the 12. So let's see what Austin Cindric has. Can't count out Kyle Larson. Denny Hamlin could easily have a bounce back weekend after what happened to him at Sonoma. Anybody else come to mind? The 19, I mean, they're looking for redemption too, but I mean, a lot of it will definitely be revealed, I think, on Friday at 5:30 in practice.
Yeah, guys who have some experience at the track in the other series, that's the thing that they'll bring up probably, that there's guys that race trucks or race Xfinity there at different times. But beyond that, it's really just see who shows up with a better setup. All these guys adapt quite well when it's a new track. But Logano, like you said, Logano's setup always seems to be just a head and shoulders above the rest when they go to someplace that nobody's been to. So yeah, definitely want to see what happens with him in practice.
And there was a few guys at the tire test. I don't remember everybody, but I know Larson was one of them. So he doesn't need a leg up on anybody, but we have seen in the last several races where there have been tire tests, those guys have definitely shined in the race. So again, if you want to start the weekend tuning in on Friday, June 14th, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time, you can watch NASCAR Cup Series practice at Iowa on USA. 1 p.m. Saturday, June 15th, there's qualifying on USA. The Xfinity Series races at 3:30 p.m. following qualifying, also on USA. And then 7 p.m. Eastern time, NASCAR Cup Series Iowa Corn 350 powered by ethanol at Iowa Speedway, also on the USA Network. Steve, I think that pretty much mostly wraps up this week's episode of the Team Blaney podcast. The only thing I wanted to mention, earlier this week, I put together a new paint for iRacing. It's Dave Blaney's 2024 sprint car based on what he just ran in Western PA Speed Week. He actually won the points championship in that. We talked about that a little bit last week. So if you're into iRacing, if you're a Dave Blaney fan as well, you can go ahead and download that car for free on Trading Paints, and go ahead and race as Dave on iRacing. It's really cool. You can see the pictures of it up on our social media channels.
Yeah, Wednesday, knock on wood, nothing's verified, but Wednesday night, Ohio Speed Weeks comes to Sharon Speedway, and usually there's a Blaney somewhere in the field. It's not to say this is a busy week, but you never know. We could see the 32 or the 10 lineup this Wednesday night. And if so, I'll try to get as many pictures out as I can. We're supposed to go Wednesday night, so weather looks good for the Ohio Speed Weeks here in this area. So thank you, everyone, once again for tuning in to this episode of the Team Blaney podcast. You can interact with us on Facebook and X at Team Blaney, and on Instagram and TikTok at team.blaney. We'd also like to encourage you to support the Ryan Blaney Family Foundation. Ryan's official charitable organization benefits brain health causes like UPMC Sports Medicine and the Alzheimer's Association. To learn more, visit RyanBlaneyFamilyFoundation.org or follow them on Facebook, X, and Instagram. So for my co-host Steve Mez, I'm Adam Rogers. We'll catch you next time right here on the Team Blaney podcast. Good night, Buffalo. Check out the TikTok.
Well, thanks everybody for coming. I hope you enjoyed it.